day, and quite interesting that we are back on the show, the Market Report Show. My name is Adefola Olamilekon, and my guests already waiting, hanging to join us on the show so we can take a cue from improving Nigerian economy from developing countries' lessons. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has marked a defining chapter in Nigerian history, one anchor on courage, bold reforms, and a relentless pursuit of progress. In just 2 years, President Tinubu has embarked on transformative initiatives across various sectors, laying the groundwork for sustainable economic development in Nigeria. Key reforms include the removal of fuel subsidy and unification of exchange rate, creating a market-reflective and stable currency environment. These measures has enabled the Central Bank of Nigeria to increase foreign exchange reserve, now more than $38 billion in our kit. Even with the above-mentioned success, there is still room and a large room to improve the economy. Unfortunately, the Nigerian economy has been battered as a result of microeconomic shock in the global market, which resulted in the recent fall in oil prices, dwindling economic revenue from crude oil, and intense economic shock as a result of falling revenue. These external shocks have largely resulted from the monoproduct economy that Nigerians have been practicing for over 6 decades. Nigeria has relied heavily on the oil sector to drive economic growth and development. Any fall in the oil price in the global market has also resulted in severe economic shock that has significantly affected the Nigerian economy. Meanwhile, initial pressure from falling oil price have led to drastic reduction in revenue from oil, inability of the government to pay workers, and other issues in the Nigerian economy. To improve the Nigerian economy, we also need lessons to be taken from developing countries who have also impacted the economy wisely, particularly on their citizens, suggesting focusing on diversifying the economy beyond oil, investing in human capital infrastructure, promoting industrial policy, and maintaining macroeconomic stability. Key areas for improvement include export diversification, import substitution, and strengthening trade agreement. On the Market Show report today on ADB Television, we want to provide solutions to some of the challenges in the economy, but taking a cue from developed countries. Joining me all the way from Texas, US, is Lawrence Taylor, a financial analyst based in US. A very good day to you, Mr. Taylor.
How are you, sir?
All right. Thanks for joining us on today's show.
You're welcome.
So, as we take a review, stock taking of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu policy economies, what has been your own assessment of the government so far in the last 2 years?
Well, so far, some of the policies seem to be working. So, congratulations to the government of Nigeria. So, of course, there are always areas to improve, and I guess we're going to do what we call in our business a balance sheet.
Exactly.
The good and the bad, and what is the difference? What can we do to improve?
Exactly. Now, taking a cue from developed countries, in your own understanding of developed countries and what Nigeria is doing presently under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is there anything related to what you have seen in developed climes like US, the federal government of Nigeria, under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been able to bring on board from the financial sector area?
Well, my understanding is that perhaps the financial sector of Nigeria is probably, if not the strongest, the second strongest sector of the economy. It's pretty stabilized. So, in that sense, it's working. But if it's only impacting that sector and it's not reaching out to their, let's say, banking customers or even financial advisory customers, like in the industry I'm in over here, then we're just dealing with a sliver, a small percentage of the economy. But if the impact starts to generate to the generality of the public, then that's where the success really shows.
Exactly. Now, when you talk about that, even though the financial sector is quite working, is having its own profiting and the rest of them, it doesn't trickle down to the customers and the rest of them. So what can we do in that regards? Because I know a lot of people will be watching and say, okay, if this is what is really happening, so how can we bring that successes down to the downtrodden, down to the bank customers and the rest of Nigerian citizens?
A lot of it has to do with what we call over here, and hopefully it's over there, but if it's not, I will be glad to start an initiative called financial education. Financial literacy is something that is very big over in this country where I'm at, especially in the field I'm in, you have to educate the members of the public. For example, me and my firm, we offer free, we don't charge financial education seminars to the general public. So, because not everybody has the financial skill, even if they make the money, to know where the revenue or income is coming from and where their expenses are going. Some people get money and they are like a flow through. The money comes and just goes. They don't have a strategy to save. They don't have a strategy to invest, to make the money grow. And they don't have a strategy, if they're a business owner, to reinvest into their business so that that business will grow. So all those things are what is called financial education, that if the financial sector in Nigeria is not doing already, then it's an initiative that I would love to partner with any members of that sector to bring to bear on the Nigerian population. Because it's like everything else. If you don't know it, you won't be able to do it. Yeah, there may be a stock market that is booming, but if the farmer or the business owner or the bank customer doesn't know, how are they going to say, okay, let me put 10% of the money I have into the market? That's one part of it. How do they manage the risk when the market is going to have a downturn? All those are variables that we have to consider in financial education.
Exactly. Now, talking about financial education, most times I've seen several initiatives talking about financial literacy. The kind of people that you made mention, the farmers, the local women, traders, and the rest of them, they may find it very difficult because the technicality that most of these initiatives bring abroad or bring to the floor, bring to the table, may sound strange. But from your own angle, how can we break those technicality down to the understanding of those local women, those local farmers? Because, for instance, you made mention of stock market. I've had opportunity to attend some literacy issues on stock market, but the technicality is still a big challenge for people who may not be as educated as I am to understand. And those are the people that you need this financial education or financial literacy for.
Well, if the population if it's too technical on the population, then the preparers of the, let's say, the presenters are the problem. Because the presenters need to understand what their audience is. They need to break it down a little more. For example, if I'm making a presentation, 50% of my clients are medical doctors, for example. When I'm presenting to a medical doctor or a clinic for the doctor and his staff to have, let's say, employee benefits, for example, I'm just using it as an example, or have some kind of retirement portfolio. The terminology I'm going to use for that medical doctor is going to be higher than if I don't have too many clients who are mechanic shop owners, for example, but I do have one or two. If I'm going to that mechanic shop to present to the owner of that shop, say you and your employees, you can do this to save money, to invest for future. I'm not going to use the same terminology I use with the doctor, with the mechanic shop owner, because I know that there are levels of education and understanding of the vocabulary I use, for example, is going to be quite different. So I have to keep in mind who my audience is. So if I'm presenting and I don't put my audience in mind, and I'm just using the technical terms, it's just going to flow over the heads of the people. It's like I play golf. It's like, I don't know if you play golf or not. If I take you, say, okay, that man there is a teaching pro, go to that teaching pro. I'm going to pay $50, let him teach you how to play golf, for example. When the PGA Tour teacher starts to teach you and use some technical terms in golf, you're a smart man, but you may not understand it because you don't have any way of relating to the terminology they are using. But me, let's say you and I are friends, and I take you, okay, come with me, let me show you how golf is. And I say, okay, this is the putter, this is the ball. Let's say we are 2 feet from the hole. Let's just roll that ball into the hole. And then we go to chipping, we chip. We go to pitch. We go to the driving range, we hit drivers, for example. Now, when you go to pay that $50 to the PGA Teaching Pro, now you have a point of reference, because what happened, your friend had already told you what is a putter,
Exactly.
what is a putt, what is a chip, what is a pitch, and what is a drive. But if you're just going straight to pay $50 to a Teaching Pro, for example, and he starts using those terms, and you don't have any point of reference, you've wasted $50.
Exactly.
And the PGA Teaching Pro, I'm using this as an illustration.
Exactly, I understand.
The PGA Teaching Pro has also made money, but he has wasted his time because he has made no impact on you as a student. And that's how it is with financial literacy. If the presenter doesn't break it down to the substance, to the level of the audience, it's a wasted effort. It's a wasted cost of putting together the presentation. Yeah, you're going to get the media. We provided financial education, etc. But did you have an impact? No, because your audience lost you.
Very interesting. But let's go back to the financial policy of economic financial policy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. When he came in, the Central Bank of Nigeria quickly introduced what they call bank recapitalization. And as I speak right now, majority of the Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 banks are already making headway in their bank recapitalization. So, but what do you make of it when you heard about the bank recapitalization exercise in Nigeria?
Well, I don't think it's been going on long enough for me to assess from a distance where I'm at, since I'm not on ground, and that is not something I read every day. But it seems to have some positive effects so far. So the best way to measure the success of any initiative is not just the immediate past 90 days or 1 year. It's usually 3, maybe 5 years down the line that you can really, truly have what we call a look back from where we started to where we are now. What has been the impact? That's when you can really measure the difference. There's going to be what the use of technical term, what's a delta between point A and point B, which is what is the difference between when this initiative wasn't there versus where we are now once that initiative. So there has to be some kind of timeline that allows you to assess the positive impact or negative impact, as it were.
Exactly. Now, talking about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu policy, one of the energy aspect of the policy is that he's trying as much as possible to diversify the economy of Nigeria. So economic diversification has been one of his policy, focus. But most time, people are yet to get the array. When I mean the angle of that policy, economic diversification, in the sense that he's not doing like others are doing it. Others focus on agriculture. Others focus on industrialization. But his own has been the non-oil sector per se. But from your own understanding of the Nigerian economy and developed climate economy practices, do you think the diversification of the economy is going the way that it is expected?
It all depends on execution. Execution is the key to everything. It may be good to put together, let's say, 100-page document, economic diversification, in all glossy paper. It's all nice and good. But how do you execute it? How do you actually implement it? If they implement correctly, it can work. But if it's just, he presented and then that's it, then again, just like we were talking about the impact of financial literacy, it's all about the execution.
Talking about execution, one aspect of that economic diversification is the tax reform. This is quite popular. Everybody's applauded the government for taking a headlong tax reform. The IMF, the World Bank, all international bodies have also applauded the government. But although initially it had its own challenges, but now as I speak right now, it's already, it's something that's always completed for the National Assembly to pass it to the president for signing. But from your own understanding, do you see that tax reform bringing the desired result of economic development to Nigeria? Because a lot of things have been envisaged. The 1 trillion economy of the president has been envisaged is tied to the tax reform. But from your own understanding, are we really doing it right towards a 1 trillion economy?
Okay. Well, like you said, it's not been signed yet. So when it's signed, and again, a key word, execution. We can have the best tax laws. We can have the best of anything proposal or be it policy or whatever. But if you don't have, okay, this, if you don't have A, B, C, D to be done and done accordingly, is then the fact that you had a very good policy doesn't matter. You have to follow that step by step. It's like climbing the stairs. If you have a 3-story building and you want to get to the 3rd floor, you have to take one step at a time to climb up. The same is true when in implementing this law. Have the outline of what needs to be done for success and then do it accordingly. Because if you don't, and you're stuck at that 1st floor because you didn't take that 1st step, you didn't take that 2nd step in order to get up to that 3rd floor, as it were, then it doesn't matter that you had a very good policy. So I congratulate and I'm happy that the effort is there, but let it not just be at the effort of putting together a tax reform law. Let's again follow through. Let's do the execution. That way the benefits can really, you can finally get to the, so as it were, the 3rd floor and celebrate. Yeah, we did it.
Interesting. Talking about execution, as Riley mentioned, right now take me to the issue of human capital development. But before I put out any question to you, can you share with us on the light side, how is human capital development policies being implemented from where you are? You know, we are talking about lessons from developed countries to help our government to also follow suit.
One of the big things is that this is where where government interfaces with private industry. Because in order to have a fully employed population, the government has to have employment policies to have the positions filled in government, and the private sector has to hire qualified candidates. So government, particularly National Assembly, needs to put together some labor laws, especially about wages, work conditions, work hours. You know, you cannot just hire somebody. If let's say I go start an enterprise in Nigeria, and I hire people, and I say, okay, I'm going to pay you a salary, I don't know, 100,000 naira. But out of that 100,000 naira, I should know what the cost per hour is for me as a business owner. But I cannot then turn around, like from what some feedback I'm getting from Nigeria, and expect my employees that I'm paying only 100,000 naira to work Monday through Sunday.
That's serious.
Yeah. So if you're an employer in Nigeria and you pay a small salary, and then you still expect that same person you're paying this small, you don't pay overtime, you don't pay incentive for working weekends, you don't pay them extra, it's fixed. What is the incentive for that employee to stay with you long term to grow your business? It's none. Because now, if another employer comes and says, oh, you're getting only 100,000 naira, I'm going to pay you 120,000 naira. They will pluck that employee, no matter how good they are to you, because now that employee has incentives. They have an extra, I'm using low numbers here, an extra 20,000 naira that would make a difference in that employee's life. But if you're paying 100,000 naira to an employee, for example, they say that's why we are working on Monday through Friday. But if need be and you work Saturday or have to work Sunday, here's extra. That will boost the human capital, so to speak, as it were, because now they have something to work for. But when salaries are not high, and sometimes the employer decides they are not going to pay employees for that month. It makes no sense. Even sometimes, from what I hear, sometimes even the government doesn't pay employees. For what reason? Why are you holding, when they've already worked those hours? Why are you holding their salary? So there has to be strong laws that says, employer, you cannot not pay your employee. If they worked, pay them. Otherwise, here are the fines for not paying your employees. Here are the fines for making your employee work more than required for the salary you're paying. Yes. And this is up my alley because I happen to have a degree in HR. I have in addition to my finance, I happen to be a bachelor's degree holder in human resources management.
I can see your intellectual dissection of that angle, talking about human relations, talking about human resources and the rest of that. But let's also look at other aspect of the achievement of the government in the area of infrastructure. But for the government, they have done a lot based on documentation of what they have done, building roads here and there, refurbishing roads here and there. But experience and lessons from developed climes, how are they putting those infrastructure in place to support businesses? Because in Nigerian context, we are building roads, but sometimes we see those roads not being connected in a way to support business. But from lessons from developed climes, take us through on that regard.
Yes, in the developed nations, let me speak particularly to the US, but in fact throughout North America, and then you can go to Europe. You have what is called road networks, where each road, let's say interstate or freeway, they interlink. So for example, you're in Lagos. If somebody wants to get to Abuja, how many different ways can they go? If they want to go to Calabar, how many different ways can they go? So there should be a way to connect Lagos to one city kind of northwest, one city northeast, one city straight ahead, where if need be, somebody can veer up and still get to Abuja. For example, I'm using those two because those are our largest cities.
Exactly.
And so in the US, for example, there's a major road here called Interstate 10, which is like a federal highway. So Interstate 10 runs from Florida in the east all the way to California. So if somebody wants to drive roughly 3,300 miles, I think in kilometers, that'll probably be about 4,700 kilometers or so. Maybe let's just round it up to 5,000 kilometers. They can drive, and they have the road, they have the network where if they're going to run out of fuel, they can veer off, make a rest stop, buy fuel. If they have fuel and they are tired so they don't get in an accident, the government has built what is called rest areas, where you can park your car. It's like they put one small structure where there's like a bathroom where people can ease themselves, wash their faces. If they were sleeping, wash their faces before they get back on the road. All that infrastructure needs to be in place in order to really be successful. It's not about building one small road and you go and celebrate. we built the road. How is it connecting to the other cities? Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, before I let you go, Mr. Lawrence, let's also take a look at savings culture. It's very important. It's connected to the financial literacy that you mentioned earlier. But help us also that the government in Nigeria, the Nigerian government as of today, there is a lot of advocacy, a lot of enlightenment in the area of financial literacy. But concretely, lessons from developed climes like the US. Take us through on that, sir.
When it comes to savings culture, it starts with the family. If in my family, I don't teach my teenage sons, for example, I have 15 sons. If I didn't start teaching them from when they were 5, 6, and say, okay, today you and daddy, boys, we are going to go to the store to buy, and here's $10 for you, child number 1. Here's $10 for you, child number 2. We're going to get practical experience on what it means to save money. Let's see how, if you can save $1 out of this $10 by buying what you need, by making sure you save 10%, which is what $1 is out of the 10. So it starts with the family. This doesn't have to do with government, but government government has to educate the parents first, the general population, so that the parents can then now pass it down to the children. Because if you do it from childhood, by the time that child gets to be an adult, they already have an understanding of what it means to save. I have to save 10% of every dollar, or every $10, or let's say 100 naira. I have to save 10% so that I can use it in the future.
Exactly. Mr. Lawrence, thank you so much for being on the show today. Time is not always too good for us. So, to dissect this much, I want to believe that we're going to take this discussion in future. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this morning.
Okay. Thank you very much. All and again, I'm glad to be a guest of your show. Right, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll get back to you. Exactly. We'll bring you back soon, very soon. Thank you so much, sir. I've been speaking with Mr. Lawrence, a financial analyst based in Texas, US. So I've also appreciate and I praise the work of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the last 2 years, particularly how we can have some lessons from developing clients like the US, North America, and that part of Europe on what they are doing to improve the economy. This time around, not just on paper, but directly on the people. And for Mr. Lawrence, infrastructure is good, but building a way to connect to businesses and also impact the people